Disclaimer: the following content is entirely fictional, and does not represent real events or people. This material has been edited and adapted from the channel Beyond the Page. How dare he? Stupid Edward Cullen. He thought it was a good idea to lead me out into the woods and break up with me. He then left me alone in the middle of nowhere in the very place he told me never to go alone. Makes perfect sense. Note sarcasm. I feel the warm tears flow down my face and quickly wipe them away. I can't let him get to me like this. He can't win. I know he is probably watching me right now, making sure I'm truly heartbroken. Well, I guess he has won then. I'm broken. I tried chasing after him, hoping I could catch him. At this rate, the only thing I'm going to catch is hypothermia. Actually, no. Screw that. I'm burning up. I feel so ill. What is wrong with me? I should have brought some eggs. I'm pretty sure I could cook an omelet off me right now. I could feel a thin veil of sweat covering my body, and all I wanted to do right now was go home and lie in the freezer. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I was lost. Totally lost. Totally lost. All because of the stupid Cullens. Stupid Edward. Some boyfriend. Stupid Alice. Such an amazing best friend. Stupid Esme and Carlisle. Great parents. Stupid Emmett. Though he was my teddy bear. The only ones I can't be mad are Jasper and Rosalie. They never tried to get close to me. Never tried to make me feel accepted. Still. They left. They left like I was just a piece of trash to be thrown away and forgotten about. Suddenly, all the anger became too much. I let out an ear-piercing cry before I heard my bone all breaking. I fell down onto my hands and knees in shock. What was going on? Surely I was going to die. Why are my bones breaking? Was I attacked? I saw something on my nose. What is that? I tried to swat it away with my hand only to let out a startled yelp. My hand was a paw. What the heck is going on? I thought to myself. I was so confused right now, and all I wanted was a friendly face. I walked over to the nearby stream to look at my reflection. I was now a giant white jaguar. I wasn't from the res, so I must be a different type of shifter. I guess that's why I'm not a wolf. What is with all this? Why can't I have a normal life? Even though Belle's supposed to avoid the supernatural world. The supernatural world chased after her. Great. I found out about the shifters a while ago. After I saw Sam shift. It crept me out so much I fell out the tree I was sat in, causing Sam to see me. I never told Edward or any of the other Cullens I knew though, as they would use it as a reason to keep me away from them. Jerks. Overprotective freaks. Leeches. Bloodsuckers. I looked in the water and saw my new reflection. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't believe I was a jaguar. A perfectly white jaguar. This was all too much. I needed to go to the resi. Just as I was about to set off, my head was full of voices. Oh, Carly said she went for a walk in the forest with Helich according to her note. We're guessing they left straight after school, so that's 6 hours ago. Oh, poor Bella. Bella, where are you? Bella, Bella, Bella. Why is she such a danger magnet? I hope she's okay. What the heck? What is this? I screamed to myself. Hi. I said shyly. Who is that? One of the voices demanded. I knew that voice. It was Sam. Sam. Help me. I cried. Bella. Is that you? He asked. Yeah. I'm kinda a jaguar. Well. I'm pretty sure that I'm a jaguar. You know jaguar. Leopard. Cheetah. Panther. All look the same at home. What? You're a shifter. How? Another burst in. Jake. Jake. The one and only. He replied smugly. I sighed. Great. Now I had this jerk in my head. Hey, I heard that. He whined. Well, stop snooping then. Don't worry, Bella. We're near there, Sam said, cutting Jacob off before he could make a snark comment back. Suddenly, 4 giant wolves burst trough the tree line. Phew, they were here. I whimpered slightly. Cowering away and drawing their attention to my retreating form. They all stopped in their tracks as their eyes widened. A second later, a shaggy russet wolf came up and head-butted me. Jacob. I scolded. He let out a wolfy chuckle and he nudged me. Yay, whatever. I said, rolling my eyes. Bellio want me to show you how to shift back? Sam asked. I nodded my head eagerly as the other 2 wolves chuckled. Who are you? I asked them. I'm Seth. And I'm Quill. Oh, hi. I smiled. Well, as much of a smile a jaguar can do. Probably looked like I was constipated. That makes no sense. Meh. Okay, Bella, ta shift back, you need to calm down and let all the theanger go. It didn't bring in his spare class as well. I wasn't expecting this. I only got a blanket, sorry. Sam said, tossing me the blanket which I neatly caught in my mouth. Don't worry, Sam. Thanks. I said before padding off behind some trees. I cleared my mind of all my thoughts and took a few deep breaths. I smelt all aromas of the forest mixed in together. It smelt so fresh and wild. I let all my anger fade. All my anger towards the Cullens. All my anger towards myself. My anger towards everything. A second later, I was human again. I was crouched down on the floors and quickly stood up. To my amazement, I was fully clothed. Guys. I don't think I will be needing the blanket, I called, walking back towards the wolves. Their eyes all widened in shock and confusion as they saw me full clothed. They all zeroed in on my right arm, and Sam's mouth fell open. I looked and my expression must have mirrored theirs. On my arm were 2 tattoos. Actual tattoos. One of them I easily recognized as the Quiliote tattoo. It was fairly small and directly above the second tattoo. The second one was like a sun, with dots around it. It covered my shoulder and was the same size as the ones the wolves had in their human forms. I stared at them for a while in complete shock until the wolves became agitated and started growling and whining lowly. Sorry. What's wrong? I asked, knowing I wouldn't be able to hear their response anyway. Charlie's looking for you. Sam growled. I stumbled backwards. I shouldn't still be able to hear them, should I? Why can I still hear you? I asked them. You can. That's great. Quill and Seth both thought. Yay, but I'm tired and really lost so. Of course. Follow us, Jacob replied before walking off into the forest. I followed them for half an hour. I didn't realize how far I had walked. Eventually, we reached my house and to my horror, Charlie literally had the whole town out here searching for me. I felt like going and hiding back in the forest, never to be found again. I was about to walk back into the forest only to be scooped up in Jacob's arms. Darn him. I noticed Seth, Quill and Sam had also phased back and were walking with us towards the house. We found her, Sam called, causing everyone to rush over to us. I was fussed over for a while before I convinced everyone I was exhausted and was allowed to go to bed. I collapsed into my bed and thought how dramatic this day turned out to be. I was dumped by my vampire boyfriend, being told I was merely a toy, and then phased into a huge jaguar. I then discovered I had 2 tattoos which magically appeared, and I knew I had seen the other somewhere before. Definitely not a normal day. Then, my life was far from normal. I knew I had seen my mystery tattoo somewhere before, but where? I slowly drifted off to sleep. My last thought, however, shocked me. I realized where I had seen the tattoo before. A long time ago when I was young. Charlie had one. Charlie was a shifter. I awoke with a terrible headache. It reminded me of this time in 2nd grade when I had walked straight into a fence. Stupid. Clumsy Bella. My head literally felt like it was splitting open. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, groaning as I caught sight of my new tattoos. I was hoping in a way it was all some messed up dream, that I would wake up and see Edward's smiling face and my life could continue on normally. Yeah. So not gonna happen. I heard my dad downstairs in the kitchen noisily banging around, probably attempting to cook, and decided to confront him on all of this. He knew and he didn't tell me. Hell, I don't even think the law push shifters knew about him. Or the Cullens. I wonder if he knew about them. I rolled out of bed, still in my PJs, and trudged down the stairs. I stood at the doorway and leant against the doorframe. I coughed, getting Charlie's attention. He looked at me before his eyes moved to my clearly visible tattoos and widened. "You have so much explaining to do," I said in a deadly calm voice that showed how mad I was. He gulped and began talking. "First, congrats on shifting. You are part of a very, very old and powerful pack. The Sun Shifters. Sit down and I'll explain it all," he said, handing me a plate of almost edible-looking food. I sat down and prodded it a bit as he continued talking. "Our legends say that hundreds of years ago, a single drop of the sun fell down too early and into a small pond. This pond was the pond a small tribe of shifters often visited. As they spent time in the pond, they absorbed the sun's power, becoming the first sun shifters. Being a sun shifter allows us to shift into any animal we wish, and control the element of fire. Very rarely, a shifter can shift into the form of a phoenix. They are immortal and have the ability to heal with their tears. But there's not been a phoenix shifter in over 300 years. Since the first shifters. The gene has been passed down from one generation to the other. As for why you have the Quillette tattoo, your mother was half Quillette. So you're a Quillette too. Wow. I wasn't expecting that, but at least he knew about the law push shifters. What's your form, by the way? Charlie asked. My what? I asked. What animal did you shift into? That's called your form. It's your true animal. Charlie explained. Oh. A white jaguar. You? I asked. A hawk, he replied. Cool. I decided to go out and try shifting, so I quickly got dressed. Into a black crop top with normal is boring printed on. Some ripped skinny jeans, and some suitable boots for the forest. I also slipped a bunch of rings onto various fingers before rushing out my room. On my way out the front door, I grabbed an apple before I called a goodbye to my dad and ran out into the forest. I walked for a few minuets until I found a small clearing I deemed suitable. I tried shifting into my form as it was apparently collars, and after trying for a few minutes, found myself in the body of a jaguar. I then realized I didn't have the faintest clue on how to change into another form, and I couldn't hear any of the pack in my mind, so I guessed they were all asleep or stuffing their faces with food. Greedy pigs. Do I just think of the animal or what? Horse. Might as well try. I pictured a white horse in my mind and felt a tingling sensation cover my body. It wasn't unpleasant but would take a bit of getting used to. I opened my eyes and cried out in shock. Actually, in was more of a neigh. That's a weird thing to be able to do. Now watch me whip. Now watch me neigh. I was now a massive white horse, and that is something not many people will be able to say they've been. A horse. I experiment moving my legs, and an hour later I was running around like a pro. I began shifting into many different forms, including a bird, elk, lion, and a wolf. By the end I was exhausted and realized I had come quite far out into the forest. I wanted to try shifting once more, to see if what my father had said was right. I pictured a phoenix in my mind, each small detail and feather in perfect alignment. I once again, to my shock, felt the now familiar tingling sensation cover my body. My eye flew open, and to my shock, I was a phoenix. Awesome. I flew home in my phoenix form and decided to freak my father out. I flew up to the front door before pressing the doorbell with my beak. I flew down to the step and waited for the door to be opened. When Charlie did open it, I jumped up and flew inside, much to his surprise. Bella? He asked. I phased back in mid-air and landed on the ground in a crouch. I stood up and smirked. I always knew I was awesome. But this proves it. The next morning, I was alone and utterly bored. Charlie was at work and school had broken up for the summer. I rolled out of my bed and trudged into the small kitchen, which was illuminated with the early morning sun. I poured myself a bowl of Fruit Loops before walking into the living room with the bowl in my hand. I sat down and turned the TV on, flicking through the channels before settling on the news. I began eating my Fruit Loops with my hands as I didn't bother getting a spoon, and I didn't have any milk with my cereal, so, yay. I ate my cereal in silence. The only sound my munching and the quiet buzz of the TV which I could pick up on with my advanced hearing. I quickly finished my breakfast before dumping the bowl on the sofa and rushing up to my room. I was going to go to La Push and see the pack. I knew they would all know about me with the mind link and all, but I wanted to visit. Be with my own kind. Well, sorta, my own kind. I slammed the bathroom door shut before quickly showering and cleaning myself. Afterwards I realized I had forgotten my towel, but oh well. It's only me here. I quickly ran across the hallway into my room. Thankful for once that my room was opposite the bathroom. Once inside my room, I quickly pulled together an outfit from my wardrobe. I decided to go barefoot as it was a lot easier and made me feel more connected to nature. I grabbed the light flow-eye dress and slipped it on over my head before jumping out the window. Thankful that my shifter abilities allowed me to do so without injuring myself. Once I landed, I ran into the forest before shifting into a hawk and flying towards La Push. After about 10 minutes I began to see the reservation come into view. I flew over the beach towards Jacob's house, passing over the woods on the way. I was grateful I did though, as I spotted the pack sitting in a small clearing about 10 minutes away from Jacob's house. They were all in their human form, in only a pair of cut-off shorts each. As per usual, I swooped down to the clearing and perched myself on Sam's shoulder, just for the sake of it. It was so worth it. He jumped about a foot in the air before desperately trying to get rid of me. After a moment's panic, he became deadly calm and glared at me. "Oops. Bella," he growled, causing the rest of the pack to fall into silence. I hopped off his shoulder, phasing back in mid-air and landing in a crouch before standing up casually. "Yes?" I asked sweetly. "Why?" he moaned. "The question is, my friend, why not?" I replied. "Touché," he mumbled before throwing his arm around my neck. "Geez, Bella really is a badass shifter," Quill and Seth yelled, making everyone laugh. Seth, Paul, Quill, Sam, Jacob, Leah, Jard, Embry, Colin, Brady and I all spent the rest of the day chasing each other around the small clearing. Leah was glad she finally had another female pack member, and all the other boys were excited to see what I could shift into. The pack was a lot larger than I actually thought. I always forgot Quill, Jard and Embry were part of the pack, and I didn't even know Brady and Colin and phased. Bella, can you shift into a dragon?" Colin yelled at me as I was trying to get a tan. I groaned while sitting up. I honestly didn't know if I could shift into a dragon. Why would I? I hadn't ever tried it. I stood up while shrugging. What harm could it do? "Okay. Stand back a bit," I called before doing the familiar process of picturing the desired form. After a moment I felt the thrilling rush of sparks crash across my skin, causing a wide grin to spread across my face as I began to feel my body distort and reshape. Growing, twisting, stretching before settling once more. I opened my eyes a second later and gasped. Well, actually that's what I meant to do. I actually ended up setting a tree on fire. I quickly phased back as the pack all began laughing at me. Idiots. Well, I guess I can shift into a dragon, I mumbled more to myself. Nah, Jard responded sarcastically. Oh, whatever. Be glad that I didn't do any real damage, I snorted. I would absolutely hate to see your definition of real damage, Jacob said. I second that, Quill and Seth said at the same time. I'm so lucky to have such a great pack, I said later that night as Jacob dropped me home. To right you are, Jacob grinned. Goober, I muttered, hitting his chest playfully. I know you love me, Jacob joked as I opened the door. Yay, whatever you say, Jake. See you tomorrow, Bells, Jacob said before turning around and shifting before dashing off into the woods. See you tomorrow, Jake, I murmured as I shut the door before making my way upstairs. To bed. Stop right there, Missy. Where have you been? Charlie scolded. I knew I'd forgotten something. One day long, long ago, lived a magical princess named Emma. My God, what has the world come to? I, Bella Swan, shifter of the goddamn sun, is being forced to tell a 2-year-old a bedtime story, and all for what? Staying out late with the pack. I'm almost 18. A legal adult. Her name, Emma. Luke MWE. The 2-year-old squealed. This 2-year-old also happened to be my cousin, but I'm really not good with children. Just in case you didn't notice. Yes. Anyway, Emma was a very kind princess. She was very pretty, and everyone loved her. She had long blonde hair and green eyes. Liak Mabe. Emma interrupted. Yes, like you. I ground out. One day she went for a walk in the palace gardens when she saw a magic well. In it was lost of jewels and pretty stones. Ooh, were the woobies. She mumbled in between a yawn. Yes. Lots of them, I said dully. She was very excited to find all these jewels and took them all. She wanted to go into the town to buy herself a new dress. Only the finest would do. Silk. Satin. Gold. Silver and jewels. However, on the way she saw a poor orphan girl and her family. I stopped as I was cut off by Emma's little snores. Thank God. I silently leapt off the bed and rushed out of the room. Charlie had grounded me for the rest of the week, saying I wasn't allowed out of the house until Sunday. 3 days away. I had already spent 3 days inside and it was killing me. I really needed to shift, but my dad had also banned me from doing that, stating I was overreacting, and that I would get used to the discomfort after about a day. I didn't. I trudged downstairs to see the regular sports playing on TV. Typical Charlie. I grabbed a Pop-Tart from the cupboard before toasting and carrying it into the lounge. I sat on the chair furthest away from Charlie and began munching my Pop-Tart while scowling at my father. I knew he would crumble soon. By tonight most likely, and lift my grounding. All I had to do was keep it up a little longer. Fine. That's it. I've had enough. I give up. Just go. Go to the res, just be safe. Please don't go. All grumpy and me, Bells, please. Charlie yelled. Score. Thanks. See you tomorrow. I'll be back late, I said as I ran out the door, slamming it behind me. I looked at the time on my phone and smiled. It was only 7:30, so I knew I had plenty of time to mess around with the pack. I began running towards the reservation in my human form. Halfway I shifted into a bird so I could watch the sunset from the sky. It was beautiful. So beautiful I didn't realize I was already flying over the res until I headed someone calling me. Bella. Bella, is that you? I heard multiple people call. I looked down to see the pack stood with a confused Emily and Billy. I began diving down towards the ground before pulling up at the last second and shifting back. Show off, Jacob muttered. What was that, Jake? I asked, raising my brow. Nothing. Nothing. he said quickly. I replied. Bella. You're a shifter, Billy said uncertainly. Yup. Shifter of the sun, I said in a weird accent. Billy's face paled as his mouth fell open. I thought they had been extinct for eons. He gasped. Hidden for eons, I said, smirking. Hey Bella. Wanna come for a run? Leah asked before phasing. Tearing her clothes. Hell yeah. I yelled before phasing into a wolf. The others all gasped slightly as their eyes grew big. What? What's wrong? Noting. Just your fur's really pretty, Quill said as everyone else nodded. You've got really good at shifting, haven't you? It's only been about a week since you first shifted, right? Jard asked, causing Emily to suck in a breath before hiding behind Sam and the rest of the pack. Yeah. The same day, the Cullens left, right? He finished. Who are the Cullens? Cullen asked. Some people you'll hopefully never meet, Sam mumbled. I wasn't paying attention to them, however. I was confused. Had I done something wrong? Was Emily hurt? Did she hate me? Bella, come down, she's a statue, Leah said through the mind link. Well then, what's wrong? Why's she hiding from me? I replied. Her scars. Where do you think they're from? A bear attacked. A shifter did it. Yes. Sam. He lost control and lashed out. He wasn't young, that's why she's so scared of young shifters. Their reliability. Unpredictable. But she doesn't blame Sam, right? Of course no. Booth still hates seeing WH Steenhatha's netoher. I broke from the mind link and gave Leah a small nod. I began slowly walking towards Sam and Emily, constantly aware of her panting breaths. I could see the terror in her eyes. How tight she was holding onto her imprint's hand, gripping for dear life. I continued walking until I was about a meter or so away and Emily started whimpering, causing Sam's mating instincts to come out, making him grow harshly at me. I froze. I didn't move forward anymore but took a small step back before lying down and looking up at Emily with wide eyes. She returned the look. Her eyes as big as saucers. Hesitantly she began loosening her grip on Sam's hand. She slowly moved from behind him and started moving forwards towards me. Step by step. Calculating each movement. Watching me for any sign of hostility. She found none. She was now directly in front of me. So close. She shakily reached a hand out towards me, slowly moving so that could snap it back instantly, if I tried to bite. Not that I ever would. That's unhygienic. She hovered her hand over my head for a moment but I pushed my head up into her hand, hearing a startled gasp pass her lips at the contact before she smiled. I returned the smile, but I guess it didn't look that good as a terrified shriek burst from her lunges, making me jump as she tried to get away but tripped and fell onto me. That was a smile, Sam called to a hyperventilating Emily. Oh, she gasped as she tried to regain her breathing while get off me. Me, being the stupid 16-year-old I am, obviously had no idea what to do. So I shifted into a penguin. What? Emily exclaimed in shock, taking in my form. How how is she a penguin? Emily stuttered. Remember the legends about the sun shifters? Sam asked as I waddled over to Emily. No. She isn't. Emily gasped after a moment. Yep. She sure is. Seth said, and Quill and Jacob came to look at me. Leah let out a whine, causing Sam to sigh. Fine, Leah. Chill, well, go now. Sam said, knowing what was annoying her. She wanted to run. And to be honest, so did I. All the boys ran off into the woods to phase, and after a brief kiss, Sam ran off as well. A large black wolf coming back a moment later, along with a pack of other wolves. I shifted into a wolf myself, seeing as I wouldn't be able to run very fast as a penguin. Yeah. Not going to work. I watched Emily as she looked at us longingly. She wished she could join us. So I decided she could. I slowly walked over to her before crouching down to allow her to climb onto my back. Are you letting me? She whispered. I nodded my head in confirmation as she quickly scrambled onto my back. Much to the surprise of the pack. She clung onto my fore for dear life, and I could almost feel her nerves, she was so overwhelmed. Let's go. Leah yelled. Geez woman, chill, we're going. I replied along with everyone else's mutters, and then we were off. I was shocked, I had no idea it would be like this. I was zooming through the woods at an inhuman speed. It was fantastic. I was momentarily worried about the woman on my back, but through the mind link I could see she was doing absolutely fine. Still griping the living daylight out of my fur thought. While my surroundings should have been blurred by the speed I was going at, they weren't. I could see everything in perfect detail. Each dew droplet hanging of the end of each leaf reflecting in the early night moonlight. I saw it. I saw it all. 1 year later. Come on. Hurry up. Jacob yelled down the mind link as we sprinted through the woods. Geesh. Inoem's muffin ser good butt breath. I laughed. Racing ahead. Never. Inni eat them. He replied. I need oni as well. I said in a matter-of-fact tone. Nope. All mine. Jacob snorted. Hey. What about me? Seth whined. And me. Jard added. And me, Sam continued. And me, Quill said. And, isware Athanian nays may again, I will make sure Emily throws your muffin in the bin, I said, snapping at them. Geesh woman, chill. Sam laughed. Me and the pack were currently racing back to Sam and Emily's house after a day of patrolling the woods. Colin and Brady had found a vampire trail and none of us had recognized it. We had had our fair share of Normans passing through during the last year, and we did allow them on our land as long as they were only passing through. This scent, however, had spiked our interest as it was on their side of the border. It hadn't passed the border line and had just hovered about it. Up and down. Never any closer though. I was hesitant about going in the first place as I had only just recovered from the heartbreak the last coven I crossed paths with had induced upon me. However, after a little persuasion from the pack, I caved. It was currently about 8 at night, so it was dark. The only source of light coming from the full moon. I couldn't help but laugh. We must look like true werewolves tonight. Giant pack of wolves, check. Full moon, check. Werewolves. Food. I see the house. Jacob squealed, pulling me from my thoughts as I rolled my eyes. God, he acts like a 2-year-old sometimes. Okay, most the time. Shut up, Jacob, Leah snapped, making Seth and the rest of us laugh. We quickly arrived at the house and we all shifted back, making sure not to look at each other to keep the peace. Leah caught Quill checking her out once and it was fair to say she wasn't very happy. Okay, that is the understatement of the year. I stood and waited for everyone to get to tea dressed, and after hearing them all confirm they were decent, looked up and began hurting inside. Honey. We're home. I shouted as we opened the door. I smiled as I saw Emily roll her eyes at my antics before I was shoved further inside the house by the boys as they all continued to pile in. The muffins are just coming out now, Emily said as she picked up the oven gloves and grabbed a tray full of steaming muffins out the oven. She placed them on the table, and to Leah and my amusement, all the boys instantly rushed over and grabbed one each. Idiots, I though. Rolling my eyes. 3, 2, 1. Ouch. Hot. Hot, hot. Jard yelled as the sounds of gasp and small shrieks filled the air as the other boys came to the conclusion. Yes. They will still be hot. They have just come out of an oven, I said slowly, as if I was speaking to a child. Whatever, Bella, Cullens spat, taking me by shock. Cullens was usually so friendly. Hey. Don't speak to her like that. Leah yelled back, protecting me. Don't tea involved, Leah, Cullens hissed. Don't talk to my sister like that, Seth said, standing up for his sister. Guys, please. Shut up. Emily. Cullens yelled, shocking us all. Everyone fell silent as our heads swapped desperately between Cullens and Emily, who was on the verge of tears, despite all Sam's attempts to calm her. As the first tear slipped down Emily's cheeks, Sam snapped. It wasn't an uncommon fact that a shifter would not stand for their imprint and would do anything to ensure their happiness. Out, Sam growled, breaking the uncomfortable silence. What? Cullens stammered. Get out. Sam yelled, making Cullens snarl before sunning out the door and shifting before heading into the woods. What have I done? I sobbed as Leah wrapped her arms around me. What have you done? Bella, it's not your fault. I don't know what was so wrong with him, Jake said, rubbing my arm reassuringly. Yes, it is. If you hadn't made a comment which the rest of us took as a sarcastic joke. Yes. Quill interrupted. I sighed and looked around the room, my gaze landing on an awkward-looking Brady. He knew something. Brady. What do you know? I asked, making everyone's attention turn to him. Well, he has a reason for he began, only to be cut off by Sam. He had no reason to talk to my imprint like that. Yes. He did. Do you guys know what day it is? Brady asked. September 23rd. Jacob half asked. Yes, Brady replied. What's that got to do with any of this? Seth asked. Wow. You guys really are shallow, Brady said, chuckling. It was one of those cold, humorless laughs. A laugh that sends you shivers, and piques the question of the person's sanity. There was something so utterly cold about the way Brady was looking at us all that suddenly right there. I knew that there was a perfectly reasonable explanation behind all this. Something I had never known. Too blinded by the miseries of my own life to realize. To see someone else's silent struggle. To see outside of my own little bubble of black and white. My phoenix cowered away in my heart. Even my inner animal seemed to be aware that something was off. Not only were we about to find out the reason behind Cullens' actions, but I could sense something was off. The air. It felt different. I could sense a silent call for help. A call of distress, but that was quickly thrown to the back of my mind by Brady's next words. It was 3 years today that Cullens became an orphan. 3 years today he watched as the life drained from his parents' eyes right in front of him as he was helpless to stop it. 3 years ago today where he stopped living and started surviving. No. How did I forget? I'm an awful alpha, oh damn. No wonder he's been so down lately. How has he not told anyone? Everyone's shocked voices filled the air while I stood frozen. Cullens was adopted. How had I never noticed? He looked nothing like either of his parents and neither of them were shifters. I mean, of course they knew about the shifters, but his father wasn't one himself. Oh God. I didn't know, I gasped. I had no idea he was adopted. It's okay, Bella. You wouldn't. He doesn't speak about it to anyone. Emily said comfortingly as she embraced me in a motherly fashion. One I had missed for the last year since the Cullens left. Yes. I can say their name now. Whoopee-doo. Big deal. Now get over it. We need to make it up to him. We need to find him. There are vampires about. Brady yelled, making us all gasp in realization. He was right. We all began talking quickly about who would go where with who and so on, and we were almost done when a loud howl pierced the air. We all fell silent as we knew who it was sending out the obvious distress call. Cullens. The rest of the pack's heads shot up as we all abandoned our previous tasks and charged out the door, shifting as we reached the tree line. I decided to shift into an eagle, so I could have an advantage of flight over whatever threat Cullens was battling against it. I opened up my mind and instantly was bombarded by the sickly sweet scent of vampires. Vampires. Oh, please. Don't let it be them. No. Stop right there, Bella. Why on earth would it be them? There are thousands of other vamps. It's not them. Right. No. It must just be the weird ones who seem to know about the treaty and have been avoiding us for the last month since we first got their scent. The only other thing I could get from his mind was that it was female. Great. A female vamp causing trouble. Cullens. What happened? I screamed down the mind link. I don't know. She stinks. She isn't a human and my instincts are going mental. He wailed, lunging at it again. It's a vampire, Cullens. I screeched. He then showed us what had happened. The vampire was on the Cullens side of the border, facing away, so I still couldn't see who it was, but then Cullens attacked due to his instincts. I hope it isn't one of them. Otherwise it's goodbye treaty. Cullens, stop. Everyone kept yelling at him, but he was too far gone to hear. He was running totally of instincts now. The pack and I were nearing them now and could hear the vamp hissing and Cullens' growls filling the air. Where was this vamp's coven? They aren't alone, right? Maybe. Oh well. As long as they're not a threat to the humans. I don't care. I flapped my wings furiously, making myself go faster than ever before. I heard Cullen let out a whimper as the vampire scratched him, which fueled me on even more. I arrived at the border a few minutes before the pack and dived behind some trees, phasing into a wolf so I wouldn't draw any extra attention to myself. I leapt out to see the vampire and Cullen about 10 meters away from each other. The vampire's back was towards me, and I could tell she hadn't noted my presence yet. She was missing an arm and no doubt had a lot of cuts and cracks littering her skin. Cullen's eyes quickly flashed to me before returning to the vampire. I slowly took a step forward and just my luck. A branch snapped under my foot. So much for being stealthy. The vampire's head snapped towards me and I gasped. There stood someone I never thought I would see again. There, in the small moonlit clearing, stood Esme Cullen. Guilt overwhelmed me. I knew it wasn't me who had harmed her, but if I hadn't had been so difficult, Cullen wouldn't be here, and she wouldn't be hurt. Esme, Rosalie and Jasper were the three I could never bring myself to hate. Emmett was on the line. Sometimes I could forgive him. Others I was a millimeter away from wanting to tear him to shreds. I was in a trance. So much, so I didn't even notice Cullen leaping onto Esme, taking her off guard due to the fact she was still staring at me. She was flung across the clearing and into a tree. I heard her let out a whimper as she smashed through the tree. I had to help her. I couldn't let her die. Cullen, stop. Stop it now. I screamed in desperation. Within a second I had leapt in front of Esme's crumpled form and began growling viciously at Cullen. He had hurt her, and he would definitely going to get the worst screaming at he has ever received after this. I had to lock my muscles in place to avoid attacking him right there. I was furious. We both knew who would win that fight if it was to happen. And the odds weren't in his favor. He took a step forward, causing me to growl a murderous growl. He leapt back and was instantly surrounded by the pack. After a few growls from either side, they began towing him away. Neither of us had noticed them arrive during our intense stare down, but I was glad they were here, otherwise I would probably have killed him. I couldn't think about that for now. I had to help Esme. At least she was safe. Well, for now. As soon as they were out of my sight, I spun around to see a terrified Esme. Her severed arm was leaking a vast amount of venom, and she was covered in dirt and cracks. I can't believe Cullen did this. I took a step towards her, but she whimpered and scooted away. The guilt and sadness was overwhelming me. Please don't hurt me, she croaked. She thought I was going to hurt her. Why would I save her from Cullen if I was going to harm her myself? I shook my head, signaling I wasn't going to hurt her, but I was seriously wondering where the rest of the Cullens were. As I was thinking this, a loud whine erupted from my throat, causing her to whimper and push herself further into the bushes. I decided I needed to get her back to the Cullens. I could just follow her scent and it should lead to them. Right. I padded across the clearing and picked up Esme's arm in my mouth. It was gross. www. The only reason I did it was because I loved her. She was my mother. After I had collected her arm, I slowly made my way over to her, and scooped her up onto my back. Much to her horror and protest, I felt her hand grip onto my fur with her intense strength, and it took all my will not try cry out in pain. Damn. She has a tight grip. I walked a few meters over to the treaty line, not wanting to cross without her permission. I knew the treaty was technically broken now. But it was all about trust and faith. Esme seemed shocked that I was waiting for her permission and quickly said I could cross. That was all the confirmation I needed. I was off, running as fast as I could back to the Cullen house. The sickly sweet stench of vampire was getting stronger every second. Yet I noticed it wasn't as bad as the others made it out to be. It was more like a sweet lime scent mixed with lemon tart. I could see small flashes of the house in front of me now, so I knew we were close. I knew they would attack me, but I didn't care. I had to help Esme. I honestly didn't care if that got me hurt. I knew we were well within hearing range for them all, so I knew I would be greeted with a not-so-friendly reception as soon as they saw Esme. I burst through the tree line and looked at the house. It hadn't changed at all since 50 years ago. A second later the greeting comedy arrived. 5 of them. Carlisle, Emmett, Rosalie, Alice and Jasper, but no Edward. Where was he? I didn't have time to think further on that thought, as their faces turned from confusion and disgust to murderously angry ones. Only then did I realize how much trouble I really was in. As they all began charging towards me, my inner animal took over me. I slipped Esme gently onto the floor, placing her severed arm next to her, and stood protectively over her. A low growl emitting from my chest. It wasn't very loud, but it got a clear message across. Stay away. All the Cullens froze as they looked at me with wide, curious eyes. I was desperately trying to get control back over my body, and after a bit of fighting inside myself, I did it. I was back in control. I stepped backwards, away from Esme, trying to show I wasn't a threat. Apparently they didn't get the message. I was instantly pinned to the ground by 2 murderous-looking vampires. Emmett and Jasper. Damn them. I wiggled and thrashed about, frantically trying to free myself, but to no prevail. It was a futile effort, so after a while, I gave up and accepted my fate. I was going to die to the hands of my brothers. Great. Just great. My ultimate demise to my brothers. How heroic that'll sound. I began whining and yapping and growling. Nothing was working. I could see Carlisle comforting Esme, who was looking at me with panicked eyes while trying to say something. Alice and Rosalie were looking at me with different emotions. One wonder. The other disgust. I'll let you guess whose was whose. My growls and whines were getting louder each massing moment, but I instantly fell quiet to hear what Esme was saying as she began to stutter. I could tell everyone else was also doing the same. Don't hurt him. He saved me, she cracked out, shocking everyone. Emmett and Jasper slowly released me but kept a wary glance on me at all times. I slowly stood up and took one small step towards Esme. Wrong move. Instantly Carlisle had whisked Esme over to the porch of their house, and Jasper, Emmett, Alice and Rosalie were all crouched protectively in front of them. Wow. I could see this wasn't getting anywhere, so decided to go about this differently. Shifting into my phoenix form, I began my graceful flight towards them. They all gasped as they took in my new appearance. Well, if they weren't confused before, they defiantly are now. I landed on Carlisle's shoulder as he was still crouched over Esme. He looked at me in wonder, and I could feel myself blushing under my feathers. I looked down nervously and tried to cover myself with my wings. I heard a laugh and realized it was Jasper, the mysterious Cullen, who never spoke. You've made him embarrassed, Carlisle, he said, smirking. I couldn't help but feel irritated. Why did they always have to assume shifters were men? Leah's a female shifter. And so am I. Oops. Now he's annoyed, Jasper said. I let out a loud cry on irritation. I am not a man. What is it, mister? Emmett asked stupidly. I pointed at Esme with my wing. Then myself. Rosalie. Then myself. Alice. Then myself. Gosh, I hope they can figure this one out. Alice. Esme. Rosalie and you. What do you have in common? Carlyle asked. You better not have a crush on my Rose, Emmett yelled, making me roll my eyes. No. That's apparently not it, Alice said. I sighed. As best as I could in my bird form. And hopped onto Esme's shoulder, which was slowly starting to reattach itself. I began crying, making my tears fall into her wound. I got very good at making myself cry after all this time practicing and now was a pro. Esme's sharp intake of breath caused Carlyle to growl warily at me due to his mating instincts. Even though he knew I meant no harm to Esme. Well, what do Esme, Rose and Alice all have in common? Jasper asked as I sat on Esme's shoulder. They have an E in their name. Emmett asked. No. I cocked my head to the side showing that wasn't it. Well, you're not a vampire. Jasper trailed off. You're a girl. Emmett exclaimed after a second. Startling me. Yes, they got it. I let out a sound cry of joy before flying up and doing a series of flips and spins. I think that's it. Carlyle chuckled. By any chance, you wouldn't happen to be a sun shifter, would you? Carlyle asked. I was shocked. He knew about us for a moment but then realized he was Carlyle and he did a lot of research. I nodded my head as his eyes widened. Fascinating, he whispered so quietly I almost didn't catch it. Well, would you like to shift back and come in? Esme asked. It's the least we could do. I did want to go in, but I couldn't shift back. I didn't want to so suddenly enter their lives. I was debating it so heavily I didn't notice the pack's arrival until Rosalie began growing bloody murder once more. My head snapped up as I saw Sam and Wolf were with Jacob in human first step through the tree line. I let out a little cry before flying over and landing on Jacob's shoulder. I'm so glad you're okay, Beth. He exclaimed, changing my name due to the glare I gave him. I didn't need him ruining my cover. Yay, he said as I pecked him hard. What the hell happened? A pissed of Emmett snarled. We. Irritated Colin. The newest member of the pack. Today is a sensitive day for him and we forgot, Sam explained. You broke the treaty, Rosalie snarled. Yes, I guess we did. Sam gulped. Alice. Emmett and Jasper all growled at the realization. They crouched down, ready to pounce and kill. Oh, great. I met Alice's eyes, silently begging her to stop. I looked her dead in the eye. My brown to her gold. She looked at me, wide-eyed, before standing up out of her crouch, drawing everyone's attention to her. I can't hurt them. She reminds me of Bella, she whimpered before Jasper pulled her to his chest, running her back as she sobbed. I will stand with Alice, Jasper spoke lowly. I'm with my twin, I guess, Rosalie, said reluctantly as her and Emmett stood up also. You owe us big time, Emmett growled. Now go before we change our minds, Rosalie hissed. I watched sadly as Sam and Jacob led me away into the woods back towards the reservation. I missed the Cullens, and that was what made me determined to follow through with the plan forming in my mind. I would go there every night. Always in my jaguar form, and I wouldn't shift back. I would see if they still cared about Bella Swan, and only then would I shift back. The moment we arrived back at the reservation, I could tell something was off. Not only could I see one of Sam's windows were smashed, but all the pack elders were huddled around something. Someone. Cullen. I instantly shifted back as Sam. Jake and I rushed over to see what had happened. I almost wished I hadn't. Cullen was lying on the floor in a puddle of his own blood while Emily was sobbing loudly into Quill's embrace. What happened? Sam demanded, drawing everyone's attention to us. Emily threw herself into Sam's arms as she began sobbing even louder. What the hell is going on? Cullen. He was in a really bad state of mind. Emily stuttered between sobs. He ran out the house. He slammed the door and the glass shattered on him. I didn't know what to do. Emily wailed as Sam frantically tried to comfort her. Emily. It's going to be okay. Breath and calm down. Look at me. Sam demanded softly as he pulled Emily's face up to his. He's going to be just fine. Sam murmured before placing a soft kiss on Emily's head. I pushed through the group of elders, ignoring their protests. Excuse me. One of them exclaimed. We are very busy, little girl. Run along, and let us sort this out. They continued, earning a scowl from me. I was just about to open my mouth to give the little toad a piece of my mind when Sue spoke for me. Harold. This is Bella. She can heal Cullen, so leave her be. Sue hissed. Ever since Shed started dating Charlie, Shed become very protective of me. Yes. Sue and my father are dating. 3 months now. It was quite a shock, really. Coming home to see my dad and Sue and my dad in the middle of an intense makeout session. Awkward much. Where's the worse wounds? I asked the elders. Just that one there on his arm, Billy said, pointing to a deep gash on Cullen's right upper arm. The others are minor cuts. Healing already. He continued. I sighed at the stupidity of this boy, yet a hit of sorry somehow made its way into the gesture. Cullen was going through a rough time. We needed to be lenient. I shifted into a phoenix, crying and healing his wounds. A while ago we had found out my blood also healed. In any form. Now I know what you're thinking, okay. Like EWWW. What the fuck? How do you know that? Do you let the wolves drink your blood or something? No. That's not how I know. I know because a while ago, a tree collapsed and landed partly on me and Jacob. I had cut my hand and leg while Jacob had a big gash going from his right shoulder to his elbow. While I was looking at it, and trying to clean it, some of my blood must have got into his wound, and let me tell you, it was the weirdest thing ever. Sort of. Gold stitch-like line had appeared and practically sewed his skin back together. It was creepy, really. When I returned from my daydreaming, I found I was no longer outside next to Cullen's bloody body but sat on Emily's couch with a blanket draped over me. I shook my head and let out a breath. I really needed to pay attention. So, what are we doing about the Cullens? I can't believe they're back. I mean, the cheek, I exclaimed, making everyone groan. Bella. We've just been through all this, but yes. I know it is rather annoying that they're back, Quill said from next to me. As for what we're doing, we're going to have a meeting with them. Now, Sam said as he stood up, followed by everyone else. Okay. I'm going to wash quickly. Please don't think about me. He might read it in your minds. I begged. God damn, mind rapist. Seth muttered, making Leah smirked as only she and I heard him speak. Bella. I doubt we're going to be able to not think of you. We want to rip their throats out for what they did to you, Sam said. Fine. I sighed. You can call me. Any ideas? I asked, coming up short. Leech lover? Leah asked lightly, trying not to laugh. No way. I said seriously, trying to retain my own smile. Brownie, Seth suggested. I looked at him weirdly. Next. Leo. Short for leopard. No. Phoebe. Like phoenix. No. Chorused the pack, scratching their heads in thought. They were already out of ideas. Useless. Snow. Brady exclaimed after a minute. Snow. I repeated skeptically. Yeah. I get it. Like when you phase your fur. It's the most beautiful snow white ever, Cullens said, shocking us with his positive attitude. What? He asked innocently, seeing our shocked faces. Never mind. Snow's perfect, and I don't even know why we spent so long on this. I'm going to shower now. What's the time, by the way? I rambled. It's 4:35 and we'll meet you at the treaty line. Please be quick. I got the feeling we'll need you to keep the peace, Sam said before giving Emily a sweet kiss and heading out the doors with the pack. You know where the shower is, Bella. Help yourself. Emily smiled before picking up a copy of Vogue and gluing her eyes to it. A small smile on her face. I smiled weakly before heading to the bathroom. Things had just got a whole lot more complicated. I sighed as I sped up, deciding I had spent enough time procrastinating already. I had showered for 15 minuets before taking 10 more to get dressed, then I shifted and began my flight to the borderline. Only now I decided to speed up as Paul was loosing his restraint, and I knew he would lash out if I didn't arrive pronto. The sky was already getting dark and my heart ached slightly as the reality of the day sank in. It wasn't just a weird dream. This was my messed up reality. My messed up reality, which caused me to fly straight past where I was meant to be meeting everyone. Great. Doing a loop-de-loop, one of my favorite tricks, I began flying back to the small river separating the Cullens and the pack's land. I could hear the Cullens speaking and the pack growling a mile off. They were incapable of being civil. I suddenly swooped lower down, diving through a small gap in the tree canopy before pulling up at the last minute and letting out a loud squawk as I spread my wings fully, silencing everyone. Thank you. I saw the pack let out a wolfy chuckle, obviously from reading my thoughts. Rude. B. Snow, it's not like that and you know it. Sam thought as I went and pitched myself on Alice's shoulder only to receive a sharp squeal as Alice grabbed me into her arms and began cradling me like a baby. I cried out and tried to free myself, but after a few minutes I gave in and lay motionless in her arms, and she stroked my feathers lovingly. I thought her name was Beth. Edward asked, catching us off guard. Wait. What? Edward. Edward's here. Why didn't any of you tell me? I screamed into the mind link. Happy when they all flinched slightly. Why do you care about me being here? Edward asked sulkily, making me roll my eyes while I refused to look at him. No way was I going to be able to keep my emotions calm if I saw him again. Her name is Beth, but her nickname is Snow. Sam replied to Edward's earlier question. Oh. Edward deadpanned as if he had been expecting a MI5 explanation with secret weapons. Ninjas and exploding helicopters. Yay. Not sure where that came from. Now, please. Back on track. The treaty. Carlyle said after a second, breaking the awkward atmosphere only to replace it with a hostile one. You mutts broke the treaty. You're lucky we're letting you live. I was all for killing you personally. Rosalie sneered. Well, she's obviously not changed. Yes. We are aware of that, but Colin is new to the pack and today was a hard day for him. Edward translated for Sam. Well. I'm sure we can come to a compromise. Carlyle said, rubbing Esme's back as she cowered behind him. It broke my heart seeing my mother figure so scared and vulnerable and without thinking. I found myself flying across and landing on her shoulder. Hello there. She cooed softly while gently stroking my feathers. We do not wish for any more violence. We don't wish for any deaths or families torn apart. Edward translated for Sam, growling slightly. What are we going to do? Seth asked down the mind link. I don't know. It's all so confusing at the moment. Leah replied with a sigh. How about a peace offering? I suggested. What do you mean? Quill asked worriedly. I can go and live with them. What? No way. Not a chance. I think that's a great idea actually. Edward interrupted, obviously hearing our whole conversation. What is son? Carlyle asked. Beth here. Is going to live with us. Edward said with what was probably a smirk. I wasn't going to look to find out. Beth. Alice said, dragging out my name. What pixie? She called you a pixie. Edward chuckled, finally leading to my undoing. My head snapped up to see a weak smile on his face. His eyes looked dull and he had large circles around his eyes. He needed to hunt. However, now I had seen him. I couldn't look away. My world shifted. My reason for loving changed almost as if there was now 1,000 steel poles tying me to Edward. At that moment my worst nightmare came true. I imprinted on Edward Cullen. No. No, 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 no. This cannot be happening. No, no, no. Beth. Calm down, what's wrong? Sam asked, aware of my distress along with the rest of the pack, who were listening to my mental breakdown. Calm down. Calm down. I just imprinted on my ex-vampire boyfriend, who is also my mortal enemy, and you want me to calm down?" I screamed before freezing. Edward must have heard all of that. "No. No, no, no. Bella, please stop saying no, it's giving me a headache and the leech is too busy sulking to be listening to us." Jacob soothed as an image of Edward leaning against a tree, facing away with his hands buried in his pockets filtered through the pack link. "Thank God. Bella. You realize you're going to have to live with them now, right? You physically can't be away from your imprint for more than a day, and even during that time it's uncomfortable," Sam reasoned. "Sam. I am not living with them. Not after what he did to me." "Bella. May we remind you that he is your imprint?" Quill said. I sighed and became aware that Alice was still cradling me in her arms. My eyes widened as I tried to escape her grasp, but she wasn't budging. She was too busy watching Edward to notice. I let out a small cry, instantly getting her attention, as her arms slackened, allowing me to jump down onto the floor, shifting into my true form. My jaguar. I heard the Cullens gasp, but I was too busy watching with horror-filled eyes as Sam walked into the tree line before reappearing a moment later. The Cullens looked surprised that Sam trusted them enough to do this, but didn't dwell on it as Sam began speaking the words that sealed my fate. "Okay. So we have a slight issue that just occurred. Beth imprinted on Edward there," Sam said, spitting Edward's name, making me growl on instinct. "What is an imprint?" Emmett asked. "Who cares what it is? It's a mutt thing." Rosalie spat. "Bitch." "Oh my God. Leah." "Yes. You're a bitch." "Wahey." "Trollololololol." "Bella. Pay attention," Sam snapped. "So she physically can't be away from Edward without causing herself pain?" Esme asked. "Heartbroken." "When did they find out what an imprint was?" "When you were calling Leah a bitch." Quill snorted. "Oh. Well, I guess you're living with us now, Beth. Welcome to the family." Carlisle smiled. "What? I never agreed to this." "No, but Sam did for you." Leah laughed. I glared at Sam, pleased when he flinched. He had officially ruined my life. "So Beth, you still need to do your night patrols and attend all the council meetings," Sam said. "But for now, good luck and goodbye." With that he shifted, totally destroying his clothes, and ran off back towards La Push with the pack in tow. Has so dramatic goodbye and good luck. What is that all about? "You know I can hear you, right?" Sam asked. "I don't care. So, I guess I'm going to have to live with another human and this one's a mutt." Rosalie spat, earning a vicious snarl to erupt from everyone's throats. "Shut up," Edward snarled. "And I'm sorry, wolf girl, but I will never love you." I rolled my eyes. "Well, see about that." "So, do you want to shift back? Do you have any clothes?" Esme asked. I froze. I can't shift back. They'll see who I am. I can't let them know it's me. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Oh God. Charlie. I'm going to have to make up some excuse for why I'm not at the res or at home because he sure as hell isn't going to let me stay with a coven of vampires. Sensing my panicked emotions, a wave of calm swept over me. Jasper, god damn it. I shot him a look, surprising everyone. Shoot. I wasn't supposed to know it was Jasper messing with my emotions. Edward. What's she thinking? Carlyle asked after a moment. I can't hear her. Edward hissed in frustration. What? Everyone yelled. I know. It's too much. I need some time alone. Edward gasped before he sped off, leaving a flurry of dust in his wake. The Cullens all sighed, and I finally realized something that I hadn't thought about for the last year. Leaving hurt them just as much as it hurt me. My eye widened in horror as Edward slipped away, and I was unable to do anything about it. I felt awful. I was so wrapped up in my thoughts of self-loathing and pain I didn't even notice I was crying until I felt a small, cold hand on my face. I looked up through my clouded vision to see the shape of Alice and Jasper stood before me. What do they want? Please don't cry. Come with us and we will explain back at ours. I mean, if that's okay with you. Alice said cautiously from her position slightly behind Jasper. I slumped my head before shifting into a small house cat and climbing up into Alice's arms. The whole coven and the pack were all staring at me with confusion on their faces. I looked up at Alice with my big brown eyes and nodded once. She smiled weakly before the trees around us blurred slightly and I realized we were running. As I focused properly, I could see a small trail of misplaced dirt. The only clue to the direction that Edward went, but it soon disappeared off to the left of where Alice was taking me. Bella. What the hell are you doing? Sam screamed through the mind link. Bella, get back here now. Jacob snapped. What the hell makes you think you can't control what I do? I yelled back. I am the Alpha. You must obey me. It's not safe. Sam roared. Bella. Please. Please, Bells. Belsie, the others begged. Will you all shut it? Sam. You are not my Alpha. Never have been. Never will be. I will never obey you after this, and being with them is probably a lot safer than being with you, to be honest. I screeched before severing the mind link, plunging my mind into silence. Beth. Are you okay? I shook my head, clearing my thoughts as I became aware I was now in the Cullens' late living room on Alice's lap as Esme was lighting the fire. Alice was softly grooming my hair with one hand as Jasper held the other in his own large one. We were sat on the love seat while Esme and Carlyle were sat in one opposite us and Rosalie was sat on Emmett's lap in the large armchair on the right. There was a large coffee table in the center which had a few coasters and books placed on top. Beth. Esme called once more. My gaze snapped to her. How I'd missed Esme. Her heart-shaped face, caring eyes and caramel hair. If Carlyle ever heard her, I'd personally make his life hell. Whoa. Jasper muttered from next to me, gaining the attention of the vampires before me. Carlyle, you better be careful. She's feeling mighty protective over Esme and a little bit hostile towards you. I'm not sure why though. I smirked a cat-like smirk and stretched my whole body before rolling over in Alice's lap, looking directly at the ceiling. I heard Carlyle growl slightly, followed by the sound of fabric moving. I twisted my head around to see Carlyle had pulled Esme onto his lap with his arms wrapped firmly around her waist, so she was smushed against him. He was taking deep breaths of Esme's scent from the crook of her neck as she was whispering calming and comforting words into his ear. I was shocked until I realized why Carlyle was acting this way. He was trying to make a claim on his mate. He thought that I felt he wasn't good enough for Esme or that he'd try and take her away from him. I could never do that. Carlyle, it's okay. She's feeling apologetic and submissive. I think I interpreted her emotions wrong, Jasper said, sending a wave of calm through the room. Yeah. Anyway, hate to ruin the moment, but I actually have things to do today, so if you don't mind. I'd like to get this done with. Rosalie snapped. Same old bitch. I resisted rolling my eyes at her stupidity. Just. Yes. I guess we did get off track. Anyway, as you know, I'm Carlyle, and this is my mate Esme. This is Emmett and his mate Rosalie, and you're sat on Alice's lap, and Jasper is her mate. The one next to you. Carlyle said, pointlessly introducing them all. Can you shift back so we can talk? Jasper asked. Hell no. No way. I shook my head fiercely. Leaping off Alice's lap and hiding under the sofa Esme and Carlyle were on. Wrong move. Oh. Simone, lil kitty. It's okay if you don't have any clothes. Alice has a whole mall upstairs, you'll find something in there for you, for sure. Emmett boomed as he lifted the sofa, with Esme and Carlyle still on it, with one hand while grabbing me with the other. I let out a god-awful cry as I flailed helplessly in his grasp as no one made a move to try and assist me. I wiggled and squirmed until I was growing weak. Put me down. Put me down. I cried in my head. But no one heard. It was like my worst nightmare. It used too much energy to shift into something larger, and I was being held captive by my giant of a brother. I finally fell limp as my eyes began to close, but I felt myself being tossed and thrown through the air before I was grasped by something cold and firm. I felt safe. So safe, and like I was at home. With the last of my energy I looked up to see my beautiful imprint cradling me in his arms and looking at me with a panicked expression. Then. Darkness. Emmett. How could you be so careless? I'm sorry, Carlyle. I wasn't thinking. I swear if you've hurt her I'll kill you. Silence. I am so confused. Bella is my mate. Not this shifter, whoever they are. Bella's scent is old in her house. It's almost like she hasn't been there in months. Her belongings are there and so is Charlie. I don't understand anything. Edward wailed. Why the hell is he talking about me? I thought he hated me with all of his being. He's not the only one who's confused. I think she heard that, a thick Texan voice said as I hesitantly opened my eyes. I was curled into a ball on Edward's lap, leaning against his chest as the rest of his family sat on the sofas around us. We had somehow moved from the living room to the small lounge room I used to love. Mainly because it had a giant bean bag in front of the fireplace and a bookcase of classics. I'm pretty sure I left my copy of Wuthering Nights here. She's awake. Alice chirped. I tilted my head, giving her a sarcastic look. You don't say. I'm sorry, Beth. Honestly, I was just excited. Emmett apologized from his seat next to, more like under, Rosalie. I let out a small meow and sent understanding and forgiveness to Jasper, hoping he'd pass it on to Emmett. I guess he did, as a moment later Emmett was grinning ear to ear like the immature immortal he is. I looked up at Edward with big eyes, melting into his arms as he looked back into my own eyes. I could see something was wrong, but I was too confused to understand. Bumping my head into Edward's arm gently, I jumped off his lap and walked over to the fireplace. As I got nearer, I saw that I had indeed left my copy of Wuthering Nights here. However, it wasn't the book which caught my attention, but the small pile of photos sticking out from under it. I slowly dragged the book away but the corner of the four and was shocked by what was in the photos. They were the photos of my 18th birthday. The day everything went wrong. I picked them up in my mouth and jumped onto the small oak table, which everyone was gathered around, before spitting the pictures out, causing them to scatter around the table before settling. I heard the Cullens' sharp intake of breath as they realized what I had found. I saw them all pass an anxious look around the circle before Esme tried reaching for the photos. Not going to happen. I hissed at her and swiped a clawed paw at her, causing her to snap her hand back and cower into Carlisle's chest slightly. I turned to look at the first photo. It was of me and Edward walking down the stairs as I looked absolutely mortified at the extent Alice had gone to throw the party. My dull brown hair was hanging down my back as my dark brown eyes stood out from my chalky white skin. Even I myself can admit how hideous I looked back then. Becoming a shifted had defiantly benefited me. I had acquired curves in the right places. My skin had become snow white and my eyes had turned a light hazel with streaks of dark brown mixed in. Turning my attention back to the picture, I placed my paw over the image of me and cocked my head to the side. I wanted to see if they would explain anything to me. Carlisle looked at what I was pointing at, then sighed along with everyone else. They are doing a lot of sighing. That's Bella, Carlisle forced out, flinching slightly along with everyone else. He is Edward's mate. Which is why we're confused about all this imprinting business. We were in Forks about a year ago. A bit longer, I think, but anyway. Edward and Bella dated and we went through some rough patches, but we then calmed it all down. Well, until her 18th birthday. We threw her a party. She got a paper cut opening a gift. She was very clumsy, you see. And Jasper, the newest to our diet, lost control. Edward pushed Bella back with a bit too much force and she went flying into a table full of glass. Yes. I know this already. Get to the interesting part. I looked around, pretending to try and find myself. I mean, obviously I wouldn't as in me. That makes no sense. Meh. I had to break up with her. It was too dangerous, Edward said, finally finding his voice. After a few days of avoiding her, I took her into the woods. It wasn't far from her house. I made sure of that. I didn't want her getting lost. That wouldn't be good for my accident-prone Bella. I took her there. And I knew the only way to get her to let me go was to lie. To lie from the bottom of my being and lie well. I hated it. The look of pure and utter heartbreak on her face as I spewed the lies that I had to. Slowly killing myself with every word. All for her. To keep her safe. Every day I think of her and it hurts. I've not heard a thing about her since. Alice can't see her in her visions anymore, but we know she's still alive. Somewhere. Edward deadpanned. Wow. Well, that changes things. I looked over the pictures, each bringing back a memory with a jolt of pain. Me and Edward awkwardly hugging at the bottom of the stairs surrounded by his smiling family. Well, apart from Rosalie. She was scowling. Show us some love, Alice squealed before pushing me and Edward together and snapping a photo of us on my camera. The next image was of me looking inside a large cardboard box with a mixture of confusion and worry on my face. "Here you go, Bells." Emmett chuckled before disappearing. I hesitantly ripped the box and opened it, finding it empty. "How much did the air cost?" I asked seriously, knowing the Cullens it could have been imported from space or something. "Ha ha ha, very funny, Bells. It's a stereo for that pile of scrap par," Emmett boomed. "Hey," I interrupted, "don't hate the truck." The third and final image was of me sitting on the sofa reading a book. Wuthering Heights. I guess Alice had taken it right before everything had gone bad. Right before everything changed. Right before my old life ended and I had to face the real world. "You should be getting home. It's late," Carlyle said, breaking the slightly awkward atmosphere. "Thank God. I need to think. I'm going to tell Charlie I'm staying at ours instead of Sue's tonight." I reluctantly wiggled out of Edward's arms, which once again I was being held captive in. I don't think he trusted Emmett not to hurt me. Edward made a small move to pull me back, but I couldn't stay. I head-butted his hand gently before turning to look at the rest of the family as Esme stood up and walked towards the door. "Will we see you again?" she asked as she slid the large glass door open, allowing the cold night air to blow in. I turned to face her before nodding once and leaping out the door, shifting into my form mid-air. I landed on all four of my paws before dashing off into the night, not looking back. I knew if I did, I wouldn't have a chance of leaving my imprint. My family. The sound of the doorbell ringing manically shattered the early morning silence and yanking me from my blissful sleep. I sat up groggily and wiped my eyes before grabbing onto my headboard, steadying myself from the wave of head rush my quick action had caused. I looked at the clock on my wall, which was barely visible due to the lack of sun. 8:30, who the hell comes to your house at this time? On a Sunday. Suddenly knocking joined the constant ring of the doorbell, creating more noise than my sensitive ears could handle. "I'm coming. I'm coming," I yelled as I pushed myself out of my warm cocoon and stumbling down the stairs. "What?" I snapped as I threw open the door. "Bella." "Aw, damn. It's Rosalie. What's she doing here?" "Blondie," I addressed her, nodding my head in greeting. "And here I was thinking you and I might be able to get along," she muttered. "Yeah. I doubt that's ever really going to happen," I said while opening my door wider and ushering her in before closing it and walking into the kitchen in search of some cereal. Her face molded into a mask of shock as her eyes widened and her lips parted, showing a few of her deadly pearl white teeth. "What's she gawking at? How did you hear that?" she asked an octave higher than her usual pitch. "Hear what?" I asked, realizing my mistake and trying to cover it up. "You know what? How did you hear what I said? No human should be able to, and please tell me what that god-awful stench is before I go mad," she screeched, becoming hysterical. "Well, it looks like you've already gone mad, to be honest, and that god-awful stench is most likely the guys from the Rees. They're shifters. You know that already though, but never thought to tell me," I ranted. "Wow. Looks like someone's finally grown a backbone. Welcome to the bitch club," she said, totally surprising me before pulling me into a hug. Okay. Why are you here exactly?" "Oh. Yeah, right? Well, as you can see him back. So is everyone else, and last night, well, it was very dramatic. So you knows there's a shifter that can shift into multiple forms. Her name's Beth. Well, apparently. I don't believe her. But she saved Esme from the mutts then imprinted on Edward. I'm sorry. Rosalie rushed out. Wow. That's a lot, huh? I said with a raised brow. And why don't you believe this Beth chick? I asked, becoming slightly defensive. Well, to be honest, I'm not sure. She just reminded us all of you. The book. The seat. The pictures. I'm probably just overreacting. You know the others don't even know I'm here. I had to sneak away, I wanted to fix things between us. Rose said. Hopefully. I could see how hard she was trying, and I couldn't hold a grudge for my life. Besides, I didn't really have anything against her in the first place. It'd never been close to her, so her leaving affected me the least. That was still a lot though. Rose. We're fine. I'd love to be friends with you. I can call you Rose, right? I asked. Of course. But, I probably need to go. I'm in enough trouble as it is. Edward didn't want us ruining your life. Especially since he's been imprinted on by that funky shifter. Rose laughed. Well. You never know. She'll probably go back to your home sometime. You should go if you want to see her. I smiled. Sure. Thanks. See you around. She called before there was a breeze, and the beautiful blonde was gone. Well, I guess now is a good time to pay them a visit. I rushed to the back door and shifted into a phoenix again before launching myself into the air. I began flapping my wings until I felt a steel hand clasp around my body as I was dragged back down to each by none other than the golden-eyed beauty. I knew it. Rosalie cheered triumphantly before dashing off towards the Cullens' home. Still holding me in her hand. Damn, I fought against Rosalie's grip but could not get free for my life. Damn, she's got a firm hold. I couldn't shift into a larger form as that would hurt me, and no way I want to be in a full body cast for 2 months again. Even with my enhanced healing, that was a long time to be in one set position. Very uncomfortable. After struggling for all of 10 seconds, I gave up. I knew we would be at the Cullens mansion in a matter of seconds, so I would soon be free again. We broke through the tree line surrounding the Cullen mansion and Rosalie slowed slightly, allowing Emmett to open the door for her. Not that I'm not happy to see Beth again, but why are you holding her like that? He asked his fuming mate. Well, it seems Beth has some explaining to do. Rosalie spat. Her voice returning to the ice tone I had heard countless times before. As the rest of the Cullens sped into the lounge area, I couldn't help the wave of betrayal overcome me. Was everything she had said to me back at my house a lie? Something to simply get me out in the open? Bait. Was I the stupid little fish that was attracted to the little something nice on the end of the thing leading to my demise? Most likely. Rose, she's feeling mighty betrayed. Jasper drawled in his southern accent, which I'd only heard slip out a few times before. All of which had been when his was stressed or mad. Great. Just what I need. Rosalie's face scrunched up in slight confusion before and smoothed out into a look of shock. Oh. Beth. Everything I said earlier was true. I promise it wasn't a lie. Beth. Now, you're here. Can you shift back? We really want to get to know you. Esme asked kindly. Please ie. Alice begged, making me cave. I huffed and gave up. They were going to find out eventually, if I wanted them to. I wiggled around in Rosalie's hand, trying to free myself. No way was I going to shift back in her hand. That would hurt. They'll let you go if you promise not to run off. Okay? Rosalie asked, irritating me further. The thought of running had never even crossed my mind before she mentioned it. Idiot, but now she had. No, Bella. If you don't do it now, you won't do it for years possibly. I nodded slightly as her grasp loosened, sending me falling to the floor. I landed ungracefully, earning myself a chuckle from the vampires before me. Great. Do you need any clothes? Alice asked excitedly. Of course, Alice asks that. I shook my head, not letting the look of disappointment that washed across her face slip. She was probably looking forward to getting me clothes from her preppy pixie wardrobe every time I shifted. So not going to happen. Don't you need clothes? Edward asked, eyeing my small body. I shook my head no. I was wearing my sweats. Perfectly acceptable. Unless Alice is around. Oh well. I quickly opened the mind link to the pack and was bombarded by the voices of the rest of the pack. I can't wait here, Sam. She could be dead. I don't care if she imprinted on one of the leeches. She's still my best friend. I'll kill them if I must. Jacob yelled, unaware to my presence. Jacob Black. I swear if you ever hurt a hair on any of the Cullens' heads, I will cut of your two little friends, then feed them to the birds. You hear me? I hissed, allowing my anger to come through. Bella. Bella. Are you okay? Have they hurt you? Jacob asked along with Seth, Quill and Jard. Bella. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to attack Esme and I didn't know what or who she was and the treaty and my bratty chill. I said, cutting him off. Esme's fine. So am I. I'm sorry I didn't call. I was at mine last night and this morning up until midday. Half an hour ago. Bella. We were worried, please call us more often. Sam spoke. I promise. I mean we won't see each other as often now I've imprinted and I'm about to phase back so. I trailed off, allowing the silence in the mind link to eat away at my ears. Well. Good luck. Jacob chuckled. Yeah. You'll need it. Quill added. Good luck. Sam huffed. Break a leg. Colin said. No. Don't say that. They all cried, making me laugh. I quickly disconnected from the mind link, using the mental power to will myself to shift. A second later, I found myself crouched down, in the living room of the Cullens. Fully clothed but still terrified. Hey. It's me. I said awkwardly. Cue cricket sounds. They all stood still as statues. It freaked me out slightly. Well, more than slightly to be honest. I looked to Rose for help but she was just rubbing Emmett's hands soothingly while looking absent-mindedly out the large glass window. Useful. It was so quiet I could hear my own heart beating and the blood pulsing through my ears. So quiet. The soft birds' calls sounded like sirens exploding in my ear, making me flinch every time one opened its little beak. It was then I wondered if it was possible for vampires to go into shock. I mean, they are showing all the symptoms, but then again, they're vampires. I'm sure the rules just have to be different for them. Like everything else is. They all continued gawking at me. Not breathing, blinking or moving. 3 things they always did out of habit of trying to blend in with humans. They were very, and I mean very good at it. Blink. Slouch. Fidget. That's the thing Carlyle had once told me. Weird how I remember that. Something so insignificant, yet I stored it away to be kept forever. One of you please say something. Please. I begged. Yell at me. Scream. Tell me how stupid and ungrateful I am. I don't care. Just say something. Bella. Esme breathed, breaking the uncomfortable silence and flitting over to wrap me in her mother embrace. It really missed Esme's hugs. It missed lots of the small qualities my beloved vampire family possessed. Esme's hugs. Carlyle's fatherly looks. Alice's energy. Jasper's calmness. Emmett's playfulness. Rosalie's bitchiness and Edward. My imprint. My mate. My reason for belonging. The man staring at me with wide, topaz eyes. The eyes slowly turning black. Black with rage. Sugar. Bella. Edward roared before I felt myself being ripped from Esme's safe embrace, and the cold evening's air surround me as the sound of his family's shouts and complaints were left behind us. Far. Far behind us. I tried wiggling from Edward's grasp, but he just pulled me closer to his chest. Edward. Let me go. Put me down. I screamed, fearing him for the first time in my life. Edward, please. You're scaring me. I sobbed as tears began streaming down my face. I felt myself suddenly being placed on the ground, alerting me that Edward had stopped running. I felt one of his large hands move up my arm to cup my cheek while the other wiped away the tears still falling down my face. The whole time, a constant rumble coming from his chest. It almost sounded like he was purring. I looked around and saw he had placed me on a large fallen tree. The bark was slowly soaking my thin nightdress from the morning rain, but I didn't care. The cold air of Forks blew wildly, making me shiver and wrap around my body. Even though it was only just gone midday, the overcast sky was blocking out almost all the sunlight, leaving us in a depressing dimness. Take this, love, Edward said, shrugging off his large, warm coat and handing it to me. I slipped it on and zipped it up, breathing his scent in deeply as I quickly warmed up. Thanks, I murmured, not meeting his eyes. My Bella. I'm so sorry for scaring you, but my brother's thoughts were rather provoking. I mean, you are in a very small, beautifully sexy nightgown. Something you should be saving for my eyes and my eyes only. Understand? Edward said possessively after a moment. Edward. I haven't seen you in a year. I didn't expect to ever really see you again, never mind imprint on you. This is all so confusing and scary, and I just want to know I have someone who will stay with me no matter what. Not someone who will leave me whenever things start getting rough. I need someone to love me. To be my rock, when I want to just be hidden and sheltered from the world. Someone to just live in a little bubble, if I feel like it. Can you really promise you'll be there for me? That you'll be strong and love me? I can't have my heart broken again. Literally. If you reject my imprint, I die. Do you understand how serious this is? Please say you're okay with it though. I need you. I still love you, and it hurts. Please say something, it hurts so much. I rambled, becoming hysterical and screaming the last few sentences. Bella. My Bella. My mate. Calm down. I'm here for you. Edward soothed, pulling me to his chest and stroking my hair while I sobbed into his crisp, most likely designer top. The whole time he whispered soothing words of comfort and love, confirming he was the right one for me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I babbled pointlessly. I'm not good with crying women. Emmett wailed from behind me, making a small smile tug at my lips. When did they even get here? Shut up, Emmett. Everyone chorused. At least you're not the one actually having to feel all the emotions she's throwing off, Jasper hissed. Too low for any human to hear. Guess they forgot my hearing was better now. Sorry, Jasper. I sniffed, finally gaining control of my tears and pulling my face away from Edward's chest. Oh, Bella, I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just well, you, Jasper. Chill, I said calmly, cutting off his rambling. He smiled sheepishly while pulling Alice to his chest and burying his nose in the crook of her neck. Jasper, enough. I have important things to do. Bella's back. It's dress-up time. Alice squealed suddenly, making my eyes widen as I opened my mouth, planning to protest. And don't complain. I've already seen us doing it, so if we get started now we can end sooner as well. Rosalie. Come on. Alice yelled as she pulled me from Edward's arms and began dragging me back towards the house. Help. I wailed. I'll cook you some dinner, Bella. Esme called as Alice threw me onto her back, sounding delighted by the thought. God, my family is crazy. But that's coming from the shifter girl. Oh, Bella. We're going to have so much fun. Alice squealed, throwing me into a large chair in her room before pulling various torture devices out a box labeled makeup. I'm doing to curl your hair and paint your nails and do your makeup, and I have the cutest outfit for you in my wardrobe. My eyes widened as I listened to the extent of her torture. No way was she doing all of that to me. She can do my nails and makeup, but I am choosing my clothes and doing my hair how I want. Alice. Take a chill pill, I said, reaching out to grab her shoulders and stilling her. Oh. Jasper's not home yet. She grinned before breaking from my grasp and running into her walk-in wardrobe. I sat still and confused for a moment before a grin crossed my face and an unladylike snort erupted from my mouth. I've defiantly been spending too much me with the pack. Come on, Bella. Quick. Edward's decided to take you on a date tonight at 8. Alice screamed, bursting back into the room. I quickly spared a glance at the giant wall clock Alice insisted on buying on our third shopping trip. It read, 5:20. I still had over 2.5 hours to get ready. Alice. That's still 2.5 hours away. I reminded her. It's only 2.5 hours away. Screeched Rosalie, bursting through the door, making me scream and fall off the chair. Great. Come on, Bella. Shower, while I pick your clothes. Something semi-formal. Rose. Help me look. Alice said, pushing me into the bathroom. Alice. No offense, but I really don't think you'll get my style. I called in a normal volume as I turned on the shower, knowing she'd be able to hear me easily. Bella. Between me and Rose's wardrobes, well, find something, she yelled back. I sighed, knowing she was probably right, and began washing myself with the expensive-looking body wash. 15 minutes later, I was clean and hairless. I reluctantly turned off the water and began towel drying myself. Still in the shower, I honestly couldn't be bothered to get out. Once I was bone dry, I wrapped my hair in a towel and my body in another before stepping out into Alice's room. I was shocked to see how many dresses Alice and Rosalie had lined up to get my approval from, and let me tell you, it was more than enough than any human would ever wear in one lifetime. Bella. Come on. Look lively, we're actually letting you have a say. Well, of course, if you pick an ugly one we won't let you wear it, but these are nice, although a few might not fit you. Try on a few of each. You're a bit bigger than me, so you'll probably fit Rosalie's clothes better. Alice rushed out, holding dresses against my body before shaking her head and getting another one from Rosalie. Alice. I can choose my own clothes. I'm an adult now, remember? Tidy all this away and I'll go and get into something. I smiled, walking into her giant wardrobe and closing the door. I took a deep breath before walking over to a rail with a large R printed over it. Why Rosalie had a self in Alice's wardrobe I wasn't really concerned. How she had managed it was what I wanted to know. I began sliding the dresses along the rail, looking at each one and occasionally looking at one in the mirror before returning it. About halfway along the rack I stopped. Hanging on a hanger was a midnight black lace-like skirt. It was perfect. I pulled it from the hanger before walking to the large rail holding all Alice's expensive designer tips that you could buy replicas of in Primark. A couple £100 cheaper. After a moment I found a white blouse which contrasted with the skirt nicely and added it to my growing pile of clothes. I finally grabbed one on my bra and panty sets Alice had forced me to buy a while back and slipped the garments on. I then proceeded to slip on the blouse and skirt. The blouse took me a while to do up, but it was worth it. I tucked the end of the top into my skirt before giving myself a once-over in the mirror. Brilliant. As I was turning away from the mirror, I caught sight of something I hadn't seen for the last year. My favorite denim jacket. I had left it here after my party and never had the guts to come back and get it. Oh well. It's coming with me now. Hesitantly, I opened the door, half expecting to be knocked off my feet or attacked by something. I was oddly surprised when I managed to leave the wardrobe peacefully. Wow. Bella had finally got a fashion sense. Alice squealed, jumping up and down excitably. Alice, chill. Choose me some shoes and stuff, will you? I asked lazily as Rosalie began on my makeup. Sure, she replied before literally bouncing into her wardrobe. Okay. I need to do this quickly or you'll be late, so no fussing, Rosalie said, already working on my face. Rose. We still have ages, surely, I said, rolling my eyes slightly. Bella. You were in the shower for 45 minutes and the wardrobe for another 30. Plus 10 minutes you spent talking to us already, so you've only got an hour left, which isn't long when we have so much to do to your hair. She rushed, never taking the brush from my face. She's right, Bella. You know it too. Don't argue with me. Ever. I'm a psychic, Alice chirped, appearing next to me holding a necklace. A was of silver rings, and some black stilettos. fastened the silver love heart necklace around my neck. Slipped the rings onto various finger and placed the shoes down by the foot of the bed. Whether she knew I would refuse to put them on at the moment or didn't trust me to hurt or break something wasn't sure. It was most likely the second option. "It'll start on your hair," Alice said. For the next 45 minutes I was pocked and pulled my various torture devices. Rosalie only took about 20 minutes to do my hair and did hesitate to join Alice in the task of trying to tame my hair. "All done," they squealed in sync. "Creepy much?" Suddenly Alice froze and took in a sharp breath, alerting us that she was having a vision. Rose and I became worried when a look of anger crossed her small face before she began blinking rapidly. "Ugh. Hes so stupid. I don't even know why he tries. He knows, he'll see it. Edward's coming early. He was hoping to catch us getting you ready. Idiot. Come on, Bella. He's coming up the drive now," Alice ranted. I felt the unnatural breeze against my skin, telling me I was being carried through the house yet again, due to my inability to keep up with them. Well, I probably could just about, but I think they're forgetting that. "Shoes. Put your shoes on," Rosalie cried, pulling one foot out from underneath me, making me sable dangerously and grab onto Jasper's shoulder, who was conveniently sat on the large armchair by me. An old Civil War book in his hands, but from the look of amusement in his eyes, I could tell he wasn't really reading it anymore. "Jesus, Rosalie. Give a girl some warning, would you?" I hissed, earning myself a round of chuckles from the entire Cullen family, bar Edward, who had suddenly decided to join the party. "I guess he'll be cooking for you tomorrow then, Bella," Esme said, a hint of sadness in her voice. I didn't like the thought of Esme being sad, but I couldn't exactly cancel my date with Edward, could I? No. What could I do then? Maybe a snack. Cookies. Well, actually, Esme, if it's not too much hassle, I would rather enjoy some of your amazing cookies before bed tonight. I mean, I can stay here, right? I asked hesitantly, realizing I wasn't entirely sure how my and the Cullens' bond was at the moment. "Bella, of course you're welcome to stay. Just tell Charlie. He does know, right? And the chocolate cookies," Esme said, beaming at me. Carlyle sent me an appreciative look as he wrapped his arms around Esme's waist and pulled her back flush to his chest. What's taking Edward so long? I thought he was at the end of the drive," I asked, remembering why we had come down early, to start with. "Has been giving himself a prep talk for the last 10 minutes. Trying to get himself to man up." Emmett laughed. "Edward Anthony, Masson Cullen. Get in here right now and take me out before I die of old age," I yelled, causing all the Cullens to look at me with wide eyes. I shrugged. "Ready, love." I turned around to see Edward dressed semi-casual in some beige trousers, brown shoes and a blue button-up. All in all, he was sexy and he was mine. My imprint. My mate. My life.